5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of Web Boxing Podcast 101. We'd like to thank all of our viewers for joining us tonight on this Thursday, February 27th, podcast number 42. All my YouTube followers, we want to welcome you, wishing you a good evening. In just a bit, we'll be going live to our guest on our Facebook page, which is Boxing Reporter. And you can see who our guest is tonight. So in just a little while, when we start the interview with him, we'll go live. But right now, we are live on YouTube, Web Boxing 101 Podcast. And we'd like to thank all of our viewers for joining us on this number 42 podcast. And I'm drinking coffee, yeah. 42 podcast. Like always, we are coming to you by way of Warriors Edge Boxing Gym facilities. And, of course, the installation of the podcast live. And it's as raw as it gets. Kids are training right now in the gym, so that's pretty cool. We have a pretty big show for you guys today. We're going to talk about what's been going on in the boxing news. I know there was a big heavyweight fight. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about the upcoming event, which is El Paso Golden Gloves. And with us will be President/CEO, Mr. Junior Vicencio is Mr. Boxing. Here in the Sun City of El Paso, and a lot of people know him as Junior. Is Ladisladio Vicencio, also known as Junior.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Junior.
Thank you very much, Tree. It's always a pleasure to be here.
And don't forget to please comment on our live chat. We can establish some type of dialogue when you go live on our Facebook page. We'll love to hear from you guys. Also visit us, like I said, on our website, warriorsedgeboxing.com, and we can take it from there as well. So, like I said, we have a big show. Before we get into the questions to Mr. Junior Vicencio, or not really questions. Yeah, well, there's questions, but before we even do anything, we're going to go ahead and talk about what's going on in boxing news. So, we got a big fight coming up this weekend. It's the Garcia and Vargas in a crossroads fight. It's going to be on Saturday night. And again, it's away from. It's pretty close to the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. I don't know. That's a bad omen. Two-time world champion Jesse Vargas, 29-2, against four-time champ Mikey Garcia, 39-1. They will square off for the WBC Diamond Welterweight title at Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas, and that's going to be on DAZN. The event is promoted by Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn has been making some waves here with Matchroom Boxing. Garcia and Vargas are the two of boxing's good guys and have shared many moments together outside the ring in various charitable events. So they're all around good guys. But after Saturday night, it's likely that only one will have a much clearer path of their boxing future, and that's why they call it the crossroad fight, right? Garcia is hoping to prove his worth in the stacked 147-pound division after a one-sided loss to pound-for-pound champ Earl Spence, and it was a lopsided. And that was in March in Arlington, Texas. So, hey, man, he's back in Texas. Wow, I don't know, right? While Vargas looks to show the boxing public he still has the skills and that and he still has the skills as a big fighter. Garcia felt Vargas was the best name available and the perfect measuring stick at this time. I kind of agree. It's going to be a pretty good fight. We've had other options. He could have picked other names, but they were not exciting enough. This is a very exciting fight. He said that I needed someone that I can compete against and push myself, and definitely it's going to push him to the limits. Jesse has that. He's big, strong, welterweight. He's a former welterweight champion. So Mikey Garcia said that this is a perfect fight to show all that. Originally, I didn't think about fighting at 140. I did ask for a few names at 140, but they were not available. So the second best option was at 145. So we'll see how that goes. On the other hand, a win for Vargas against the likes of Mikey Garcia will hopefully land him the credit he is missing in a solid career. And when I mean solid career, guys, he's fought guys like Manny Pacquiao, and then even that controversial fight with Timothy Bradley, where he hurt Bradley in the late round. So you know what, Vargas, like I said, he attracts people, and again, it's going to be no different this weekend. He will get it, and he said that I'll get the respect, but maybe I don't get the credit that I deserve after all these years, Vargas said. But after Saturday night, I hope to get that credit that I deserve, and everyone will be able to notice and be a part of a great night of boxing. And I even believe that if Vargas loses, but he still does phenomenally good, he might have a chance to get another bigger fight because he's a very likable fighter. And I know likes doesn't get you victories in boxing, but I mean, look, win or lose, I think, I know it's a crossroad fight, but I think Vargas still has a good chance even if he loses. But again, we're not talking about that losing. Both guys are ready to go full steam ahead. Garcia is aware of the exploits of Vargas and knows that his work is cut out for him as well, right? He said he's a very tough guy. That's what Garcia stated, and with the final press conference. And he has beaten everyone in else except Manny Pacquiao and Timothy Bradley, but he is a pretty good fighter. Garcia doesn't believe he has to knock out Vargas to prove he belongs there. He just wants to make sure that he has a decisive win. So if he doesn't get the knockout, he will have a decisive win. A lot of people will ask about a stoppage or knockout if that's what I'm after. And he says, I think a good performance is not all I need right now, and that's what I'm going to be looking at, right? I'm going to stop him, and again, if he stops him, that will be the cherry on top of the victory. But that's not what I'm here to do. That's not what I'm looking to do, right? Vargas, on the other hand, Vargas is convinced that Garcia and others underestimate his power regardless of what they might say. So, hey, who knows, man? You know, it's not just him, though, right? It's several fighters, Vargas said, that they underestimated my power, but the minute they get hit, things change. We'll see that. Vargas is a strong fighter, very strong fighters, and like we said, he did hurt Bradley in the past. For Garcia, it's more about continuing to build his legacy, and the legacy that he's building is a for sure thing. So, hey, man, we'll see about that, and you know what's going to be transpiring come Saturday night, right? He's going to need. So he's focused, determined. Focus is going to be this Saturday at the Frisco Star Center in Dallas, Texas. Right in Frisco, Texas. I'm sorry, at the Ford Center at the Star, home of the practice facility of the Dallas Cowboys. You see it on your screen right there. It is going to be Mikey Garcia and Vargas, and also a very stacked undercard. Chocolatito Gonzalez is back, and he'll be on the undercard as well. Gonzalez was considered by many to be the best pound for pound best fighter in boxing on Saturday. And speaking about pound for pound, as we go on tonight's show, we're going to talk about who is the who made the top 10, and we're going to go by the ESPN top 10. So going back for the best pound for pound, a lot of people consider Chocolatito to be the best pound for pound fighter. On Saturday, after a couple of hard years, Gonzalez, which is 48-2, seeks to get back to the top when he takes on Khalid Yafid, which is undefeated. And this is going to be for the World Boxing Association, also known as the WBA Super Flyweight World title. And that's going to be on the undercard. This will be the sixth defense for Javid, who is a slight minus 135 favorite to retain his belt again. So nevertheless, it is going to be a tough fight for that Chocolatito Gonzalez on this stacked card. And the best thing about it is going to be on DAZN. DAZN has delivered. It's going to be a great night of boxing, right? Well, folks, great night of boxing. We had it last week. How about that heavyweight? And I'm going to say, started in saying and the new, right? The new. What a fight that was as we coming in. And now, folks, we're going to go live to our live chat and our Facebook page. And as we continue on the boxing buzz and what's been going on in boxing in the heavyweight division, we welcome everybody. We welcome Mr. Junior Vicencio. But you know what, folks? Let me give him the proper introduction, something that he's due, right, of who this man is that we have in front of us. What has he done? His accomplishments. I mean, if I would say that, I'll be here all the time, right? I mean, so long. He is sleek, sweet, and swift, right? He's a very polished fighter. He won a few titles in Mexico and in the regional Golden Gloves in New Mexico. He knew he was good and fast, right? And again, under the tutelage of Barragan, Junior soon corrected his flawed delivery and, more importantly, learned to become one of the best stylist boxers in the Southwest history, right? Junior romped to over 50 victories before 1970. He had become a very talented open-class fighter. He was priming for the 1971 regional Golden Gloves in the featherweight division. And again, he romped through that as well. One of his, again, he was just an extraordinary fighter. He was a 3-time Texas state champion, right? Few. And he, again, he's Mr. Boxing of El Paso, Texas. Once his boxing career ended, which was a stellar, and when I mean by 3, let me tell you, El Paso history, Junior became the second boxer in El Paso history to hold 3 Texas state championships. Jake Martinez did it too, and the only El Paso boxer to win 3 consecutive years in a row, 1955, 1956, and 1957, was Junior. After boxing, Junior continued his boxing tradition. Junior eventually earned his college degree from UTEP in 1987. He worked nearly 3 decades as a program director for the El Paso City Parks and Recreational Department. Once his boxing career ended, Junior stayed true to the sport. He has coached boxers and served as an official in El Paso and in the state Golden Gloves in Fort Worth, Texas. He has been in charge of the local Golden Gloves and USA Boxing for years as a director or president. He was inducted into the El Paso Boxing Hall of Fame in 1994. And again, a memorable career for Junior Vicencio, Mr. Boxing of El Paso. And it's a privilege to have Junior here. Junior, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. And again, he was our first guest when we launched the podcast. So it's a pleasure to have you back. Junior, welcome to the show. You want to say hello, and you're on Facebook Live at the Boxing Reporter.
Thank you very much, Tree, for those kind words. It's been a pleasure being here again. It was the first podcast you had. I just had an accident, and I just gotten out of the hospital, and it feels good to be back with no pain. And I congratulate you for the excellent job you've been doing with the podcast. It's reached a lot of people, and it's very well received here in El Paso and the surrounding area.
Well, I mean, it's the first of its kind, Junior.
Yes.
So, I mean, and to have a 3-time consecutive Texas state champion is an honor to be at the gym. And, that's what these young kids need to, they need to know their history, right? I mean, I think it's important, right? Their boxing history.
Well, yes, it is. But like I've always said, now it's the young people's opportunity to make their mark in the sport they love.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been harder now, right?
Yes.
I mean, we're going to talk about Golden Gloves, Junior.
Yes.
Yes, that's what we want to
certainly
talk about, the champions and all that. But did you see this the past week's fight, the heavyweight fight?
Yeah, that's the only bout that I caught.
Yeah.
Because we had that amateur boxing event over at the Judging Arena,
which was also awesome.
Yes. We had 16 bouts. Excellent boxing. Very proud of our young people that spend so much time in the gym and dedication, and then to have an opportunity to showcase their skills.
Yeah, you know what? And I was impressed of the And the LBC did a great job of promoting it and bringing fighters in from other parts of the city. Odessa, Midland. Can you name me more?
Yeah, and, San Angelo, and of course New Mexico. We had fighters. The M2M boxing club from Pueblo, Colorado.
All the way from Pueblo, Colorado,
yes.
right?
And I just got a call the day before yesterday, and they'll be here for our Golden Glove tournament. And that's pretty commendable of those folks that run that program, being willing and to spend money and travel time and effort to travel to El Paso to participate in our program, and we thank them.
Yeah. So man, I do thank them for coming out there. It was a last minute thing card, and it was good. I saw, my kudos and congratulatory marks to the LBC, Hector Espinosa, the president. Hey man, he has a skeleton crew, and he's doing a good job. I mean, come on, man, you got to give it to him. He's the president, and our treasurer is Mr. Guerrero from Alpine, Texas.
Frank Guerrero
they did a good job, man.
Excellent job.
I really enjoyed it, man. It was good, and I'm so happy that people from out of town came, and we're still making a buzz in boxing. You know what I mean?
Yes. And you know what? It's a difficult. We're in a difficult situation here in El Paso. You mentioned that I work for the Parks and Recreation Department as a program director, managing community centers throughout the city, and we're able to establish programs at different centers. Armijo, Nations Tobin, Powell Real, and then Carolina, of course, was the last one, the last gym we established. And while I was there, I incorporated boxing into my program, my programming, and it was good. It was good. We back in the early '90s, we had a city representative by the name of Nacho Padilla who took it upon himself to establish the gym there at Carolina. I recall that he came to visit me after he was elected, and he asked me, he said, what is needed in this area? And I said, a boxing gym. He said, okay, we'll get a boxing gym. And we converted the volleyball gym into a boxing gym.
Wow.
In opposition to City Hall. They didn't want to do that. They said, well, we'll just put in for a grant and then just make an addition to the building, but that would have taken years.
Yeah.
And Mr. Padilla says, no, we're going to do it now. So he contributed $10,000 from his discretionary fund to start the gym. Also, Golden Glove's been involved. Jake Martinez and Jerry Wright and Slim Delgado. They also contributed to, and myself, and we all contributed to that program. And then there was a gentleman. He was a retired detective, Mr. Manuel Ponce. He ran the Tewa Neighborhoods Association, eradicating graffiti and doing programs for the kids around the Carolina Center. So he also had a hand in it, and we established that gym with a top-rated boxing ring, and Mr. Gonzalo. Slim Delgado, Gonzalo, he designed that gym where we could put it on wheels and wheel it out.
And you would wheel the ring.
Yeah,
right?
and it was great.
Wow,
it was great.
Go ahead.
Because by experience, that one of the non-glamorous jobs you have in promoting boxing,
you put in the ring,
is setting up the ring.
Exactly.
And then after you set up the ring, you break it down, disassemble it, and store it, and it's back-breaking work.
It is bright. Yeah, it is.
And something not everybody wants to do. So it was set up where we could roll it out to the main gymnasium, basketball gym. And then we started promoting boxing on a regular basis in conjunction with the LBC.
So, Junior, why can't we have that now?
When I was about to retire, the past president, Reyes Mata, came to me and says, "Hey, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now that you'll be gone?" I said, "We're going to lose a handle. We don't have we're not going to have a facility, And I said, "Oh no, we will." Well, boy, was I wrong.
Right.
After right shortly before that, the city government went into the city manager's type of operation, and city manager Joyce Wilson came about, and with all due respect, with all due respect, shoot, man, it became an issue of making money.
Mm-hmm.
And
forget about the kids.
But everybody, down in Carolina, we used to have during the day we had all these senior activities, quilting, knitting, arts and crafts, and all that stuff. And it was just drop-in activities, and we had we felt it was busy all the time. And pretty soon they said, "Well, wait a minute. Now we're going to have to charge everybody. They want to use the facility."
Wow.
So, that put a damper on things.
Of course.
And then so now we lost a handle on the facility, because we used to have boxing at Armijo. We used to have boxing at Nations Tobin, Pavo Real, Northeast Center, Marty Robbins, and of course Carolina. But once things changed, that was it. We didn't have a handle on it. And one of the things is that when we used to have boxing like at Carolina, it not only helped the boxing program. Right after an event, we'd have a surge of registration, people participating, wanting to box, And then not only that, but people would come in that normally wouldn't come into the center, and they would see what other programs we had. So we always had a spike in registration and all. So it helped. It helped the program, but and we made a little money,
We got to make a little money.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We were making. The center was making money. The association was able to have regular boxing, and so it helped all around. Now, a few years ago, I went to Carolina, and I wanted to have the Golden Gloves, there, because it's the ideal place.
Of course.
Well, they quoted me a price of $4,000.
You got to be shitting me, man.
Come on. To the point where they wanted to charge me $100 for use of the scale. And the scale was a scale that Golden Glove bought and donated it to Carolina years back. So that put us out.
Can you hear that, man? I mean, it's pathetic, man. That's what it is.
And then what happens now is that there's no one there at the Parks and Recreation Department that's willing to work with us. Now, at one time, the director, I guess it was Novak, Mr. Novak, did express an interest in working with boxing, because he said he had worked with boxing at his previous job, but it never happened. Now, I understand that he's gone. He resigned. So, kind of waiting.
Maybe go back.
We're kind of waiting to see who comes in, and can help us out. Years back, the city council was very pro amateur boxing individuals, helping us out. We would pay rent for the use of the facility. But what the city councilman people would do is they would pass the hat around and chip in some money, from the discretionary fund, and we paid for the.
Well, maybe we should. Maybe we need to get up to City Hall and and start talking to these politicians or these city reps, or to get boxing back in the game. So we're gonna. This is folks. This is the El Paso Golden Gloves podcast edition. We're going to get more into the history of the Golden Gloves. But we talked about June. We started interviewing him about if he saw the big heavyweight fight this past Saturday. And again, no one expected Tyson the Gypsy King Fury to beat up the WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder, also known as the Bronze Bomber. Well, the way he did. over 15,000 in attendance and a pay-per-view audience on Saturday night that actually broke records. It was a fight. I'm still shocked, Junior. According to CompuBox, Fury threw Wilder 267 to 145 and outlanded him 82 to 34, including a big fifth and sixth round where he landed 16 and 14 power punches respectively. And in round 7, Fury had Wilder cornered and unloaded with a series of power punches that prompted Wilder's corner to stop the bout, which the referee officially did at 139 of the round. Now, around the boxing world, former Deontay Wilder has reportedly confirmed that he will definitely exercise his rematch clause for a second rematch with the WBC champion Tyson Fury. What interesting thing also is that the Bronze Bomber also blamed the heavy 40-pound costume outfit that he wore during his lengthy, because he took his time to get out there, ring walk for taking his legs during his loss to Fury. We'll get at that right now, right? I don't know what to say about that. Wilder did not attend the post-fight press conference like after a pro fight you do. He actually went to the hospital.
Right.
Mark Breland, which is one of Deontay Wilder's trainer, threw in the towel, and Wilder said, "I don't think you should have." Deontay is the king of guy that doesn't want to quit. And again, he says, and again, look, man, he's going to exercise his rematch clause. What did you think, Junior, of the fight? First of all, of how Wilder came out, not the ring entrance, in the ring, and the way he looked so washed up. What did you think?
Well, it's hard to believe that the costume did that much harm. He's a strong,
very strong.
He's a big, strong individual.
Big, strong heavyweight.
So 40 pounds is not going to.
Right.
He was just beaten.
He was beaten.
Yeah.
So how does a fighter show up to a fight like that so washed up?
Yeah. Well, you could, it could be a matter of overtraining, but I don't think that'd be the case, because nowadays you have all this conditioning coaches and all this stuff that work with these pro fighters to just for them to peak just at the right time, right at the fight time they're peaking. So it's difficult to understand why.
And what about the stoppage? Do you think it was legit stop? I mean, it was a legit stop, but do you think it was? Do you think it's wrong that Wilder says that they shouldn't have stopped the fight? Which ultimately, it's the trainer's job, whether it's amateur or pro.
Yeah.
They have the control to stop a fight.
Yeah, of course. And now, that's one thing about most fighters, that you see these fighters drenched in blood, cuts over their eyes.
There was beer. There was blood coming out of his ears.
It's a Freudian slip. Anyway, and you know what? It's amazing when you see fighters. They're obviously hurt, and they keep asking the referee, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show the fighting spirit that boxing instills. And a person.
And you also goes in hand with the referee, Kenny Bayless.
Right.
He's known to stop fights a little bit early, but he's also a very professional referee, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Now, in my opinion, for a moment I thought it could have been a little too early. But you know what? If he would have stopped it a few more seconds, and he was getting hit. I mean, Fury was just taking good, solid, clean punches. Yeah. And a couple of more seconds, and he could have gotten hurt. And now the good thing is that the corner threw the towel.
We didn't see it on the camera.
No, it was hard to see until the commentator brought that up.
I mean, I saw it. I heard about it the next day. I didn't even see it. Kenny Bayless was going to stop it anyway.
Yeah, he was going to stop it anyway. Just about then, his corner threw the towel, which is good. Prefer to stop it too early than too late.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, it's the safety of the officers. Would you like to see a rematch?
Of course. Yes.
It'd be a good rematch.
Oh,
you
yeah.
think so?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Let's see. He can leave his costume at home,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've been watching boxing since I was a kid, and black and white television. Every Friday, watch pro fighting.
Black and white TV. What's that?
Yeah. It was powered by wooden power. Yeah, the leña. But anyway, you'd see these fighters coming from Mexico.
Yeah.
And back then, it was there was a protocol there. There was no fanfare or clowning around or anything to that effect. Everybody one corner would wear black, the other corner wore white. And it was
no show.
Yeah, no show.
No prima donnas. No.
Yeah, but nowadays, all that show and all that stuff. But the common, the average person likes. That.
Of course, it was entertaining.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I said, like, for people that are not actual boxing aficionados or, they're into boxing, for example, the wives, the uncles, they're just there for the beer and the food and just watch a good fight. It was real entertaining for people.
Yeah.
And it was, and let me tell you something, the ring walk, the bells and whistles, it kind of saves boxing in a sense. And it's entertaining.
Yeah.
But for the boxing people, you sit there and you say, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to this guy? I mean, I'm shocked.
Yeah, the boxing connoisseur, really don't care for all those, that show.
Bells and whistles.
Yeah, and, there was a young man that made a comment. He said, well, he came out with that to intimidate.
He did look intimidating.
Yeah, to intimidate, Fury. I says, who was intimidating? Mike, Iron Mike.
Yeah, he never came in with a.
He came in with a towel.
That's it, or nothing at all.
Socks,
No shirt. He just came in and walked.
Yeah, his black shorts, his boxing shoes with no socks.
And you know what, Junior?
And a towel draped over his shoulder.
When Mike would walk into the ring, it was business.
Yeah.
He just walked from the locker room and let's go.
Yeah.
He didn't have a rapper rapping for him, a bells and whistles, circus music, nothing like that. He walked ready to go. Mean business is business. And these guys, what did you think of the Tyson Fury entrance? Holy smokes, man. That was the King Mufafa is here. Fuck, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
was it Patsy Cline's Crazy?
Yeah.
Was that what it was? Was it Patsy Cline's Crazy?
Yeah, I like that song.
I like that song too, but for boxing, it was kind of it was odd, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it was out of place.
Right. So, we'll see about what the rematch. But I mean, as for boxing as a whole, I think stuff like that kind of people like that. It's like people that don't like football, but they watch the Super Bowl only for the halftime.
Yeah, and the commercials.
And the commercials. So I guess it helps boxing. So while there was fireworks, we're going to see more fireworks this weekend. Garcia versus Vargas.
Oh, that's going to be a
very good fight. And I know Garcia,
fight.
a lot of people follow Mikey Garcia. We want to see him look good because he didn't look too good against Errol Spence. Errol Spence was the heavier fighter, and like we started to show, Vargas is also going to want to go out there and hit him with everything he's got. Correct?
That's going to be a classical fight.
It's going to be good, and it's going to be on the zone. So we have, and then all the undercard is pretty stacked as well. One of the known fighters will be Chocolatito on the undercard as well. So that'll be good. So let's talk Golden Gloves, Junior. Let me just, before we even go any further and tell me about these local legends, I'm going to go down the Texas State Golden Glove list. Eli Caddick, champion 1942.
Right.
Fred Montoya, champion 1943.
Yes.
Manny Ortega, two-time champion, 43 and 44.
Yes. Now, Manny went on to a stellar professional career. He was an individual that would sell out the Coliseum, and he fought. He beat a world champion here in El Paso for a non-title fight.
And he went pro.
Yeah, as a pro fighter. Yes, his grandson, Mark Ortega, was the chief of officials for many years. Wow! And now he's an assistant coach down at with the Socorro district, and I'm proud to announce that he was voted the outstanding coach of the year.
Wow!
Yeah.
Wow! He was the champion, two-time champion, right? Then we have Hector Marquez, which was 1945. Adolfo Martinez, Pete Melendez, 1953 and 1956.
Now, from Adolfo down, I met every one of them.
You met every one of them.
Every one of them.
Tacho Mendoza, where you have him right here with on my screen with Mr. Mata.
Yeah, now Tacho's still around. Okay, he's still he's coaching 2 days a week. He coaches down at the Northeast Y, and you see him every year at the Golden Gloves.
Every year. I've seen this guy. And he's on our screen on our YouTube.
Right.
If you're either YouTube on my podcast at YouTube right now, you'll see the pictures. I'm putting them up right now. And then as you go down, you get Jake Martinez, Gaspar Sanchez, Raul Herrera, Mike Andrade, 1966 champ.
Right.
And then there you go, Junior Vicencio, 71, 75, and 76. And we didn't see the 3-time until Jorge Munoz.
Right.
1993, 95, and 96. And these numbers and stats are compliments of Mr. Thomas McKay. So thank you, Thomas McKay, out of his book, which is called The Wizard of the Southwest. So if you want to buy his book, contact Thomas McKay.
Yeah.
So we move down the line as well. Then you have like the likes of Juan Lascano. And then you go all the way down and you have like Bobby Joe Valdez, Samuel Brown, Rene Amijo. Then 2017 we saw, from 2005 we hadn't seen nothing until 2017 and we had Jorge Tovar.
Right.
So
and
then
Victor Aranda.
in 2017 and 2 times was Victor Aranda.
Right.
And then recently we had Moises Rodriguez.
Yeah, well,
2018.
Now, what you're reading there, that's Golden Gloves.
Texas State Golden Gloves.
Texas State, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And Moses is still not an open class fighter.
Open class fighter.
Yeah.
So, Texas
But
game,
eventually he will.
He will.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Texas game state champion, Wes Marcus, 2002.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then national Golden Gloves champions, Pete Melendez.
Yes.
All the way Jorge Munoz, USA boxing national champion Javier Munoz.
Yes.
And then Jennifer Hahn, Stephanie Hahn.
Stephanie Hahn,
In
national
2010.
National
Wow.
Golden Glove champions.
Wow. And then Olympic trial finalists, the likes of Fernie Morales.
Yes, he was the
in
first
1984
to make it to the Olympic trials. And then after that, it was Javier Munoz. And they both lost controversial decisions in the finals.
And then we have also Javier Munoz, 92. And then El Paso Lady State and National Champions. We have Jennifer Hahn, 6-time state and national champion. And, of course, she is our IBF world champion.
Right.
That in 2 weeks ago, non-title fight, but she fought again after a year and so layoff. So that was awesome to see.
Yes.
Kayla Gomez, Golden Glove Tournament champion in 2014. Kayla Gomez again, U.S. National Junior Olympic champion 2015. And Ivy Enriquez, Texas State champion, junior division, 80 pounds, 2018.
Yeah.
World tournament or champion,
Jennifer
Hahn, IBF world champion. Was that Juan Lascano, the Hispanic causing panic?
That's Ernie Juan Lascano.
And he won the WBF world lightweight champion.
Right.
And then we have Kayla Gomez, the ringside world tournament champion in 2015.
Yes.
So what a stellar list we have here in El Paso. And I'm showing some pictures up there. So, Junior, it leads me to my next question to you. What happened to the Boxing Hall of Fame, and where has it gone? And how come we don't? I know you're not in charge of it, and we know Thomas McKay was. But what happened?
Well, I have my opinions, but
you can share here at the podcast.
Yeah,
why not?
What happened is that there's a Benny Benavides. Supposedly, I heard him say, in some programs that he bought the Hall of Fame, but actually Tom McKay passed it on to him so he could continue with it, and then it kind of
went nowhere.
Now it could have been that Benny Benavides, he lost a brother. He lost a brother in that Walmart shooting.
Really?
Yeah, it was the Benavides, the postal worker that was killed. He got a lot of exposure after that, and it could have been that happened that kind of set them aside. But I talked to Mr. McKay, and we need to do something about it. If not, we may have to take a different route.
Well, I mean, and I think we should, because, man, all these people that I mentioned, they're there, but they're not there.
Yes.
We can enjoy them.
Right.
Correct? There's nowhere we can display their stuff, or if there is, they're all surrounded all over the gyms. And if those gyms have any type of history, why don't they invite people? Invite them to, but what, you got to be a member? Invite people to, and talk about it, man. You know, don't hoard it. Don't be stingy. Yeah. I know there's stuff out there, man.
Yeah. Now we kicked around the idea, you and I, of eventually, I wanted to bring it to this gym here, and it'd be the ideal place, where people can stop by and look at the memorabilia and photos and newspaper articles and so forth. But that's the thing we need to work on.
Yeah, we do, man. The list that is a stellar list that El Paso has just a long history of it, right? Yeah. So, how does Golden Glove compare to other cities, Junior?
Yeah, well, we're in a situation now. I like to make note that this will be our 79th anniversary, and next year it'll be the 80th anniversary, and we like to do something special. But we have fallen on hard times, boxing in general here in El Paso. And like we mentioned earlier about having an arena, having a venue, to hold it. And it's expensive. It's expensive putting together. And now I'm talking about amateur boxing, because that's what I do. It gets expensive. If you have to rent a facility and buy awards and a sanction and other, pay for a doctor or whatnot, it'll run you a couple of $1,000. For example, Golden Gloves. Before we open the door, we have already spent about $3,000. And then we have to make enough money to travel to Fort Worth to the state tournament. Now, you mentioned how we compare to other cities. Well, we're in a situation where we're kind of far away from most everybody.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the closest other region, Golden Glove region, is 300 miles. The Twin Cities, Odessa, Midland, Odessa, and that's why a lot of people, a lot of New Mexicans, fight. Here in El Paso.
And I want to say something about these New Mexicans. Las Cruces, New Mexico, very strong following.
Yes.
And I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think Las Cruces still thinks old school, man, mentality. Yes. You see gyms doing car washes. I want to say a shout out to Mike over there in Crosstown Boxing. They do, everybody out there, they do so much stuff out there, like car wash. You don't see it here, man. To get the kids out there, a lot of fundraising going on over there. But what I wanted to really say is that, you know what, man, they have a following, man.
Yes.
They come and they really appreciate when El Paso puts shows.
Yes. Yes. Now, because everybody's in the same boat, having to,
of course,
locations, the sanctions,
the doctor.
We have to pay USA Boxing, the awards, and so forth. So they appreciate it. You see people from all over New Mexico and
in Colorado,
and Southwest Texas, coming in to participate.
Of course.
And it costs money. It costs money to travel. And one of the things you mentioned about like Cruces having enchilada plate sales, car washes, and all that stuff. That helps bring parents together. The kids and the parents, and they do a lot of bonding, and it helps because they come to the fights, and they bring in a good crowd of people, and that's what we need, because right now here in El Paso, the newspaper is kind of obsolete now.
Yeah,
and that's where most everybody would get their information as to upcoming fights and boxing matches and so forth. And now, hardly anybody reads a paper. But of course, then we have social media, which is taking over,
Yep.
and it's reaching
Yeah.
more people now.
So yeah, I mean, we can't compare to other cities that are because of,
Yeah.
like you mentioned. So, what do you think needs to happen to get back into that level of the good old days when boxing was popular?
Well, what we need to do is, first of all, we need to be able to secure an affordable venue, a location that's affordable, that won't take most of the money it comes in, and that's one of the main things, and because it's a lot of work. You have you've gone through it with the Clash of the Titans. Wherever you have your event, one of the,
And now we went for the first time. We went pro with Golden
and
Eagle.
then you need to the ring setup.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
That's an issue.
Yeah,
Right?
that's an
I mean, there's a lot of backstage or behind
Yeah.
the scenes stuff
Right.
that people. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's amateur or pro.
Yeah, you mentioned that when I was in Carolina that I had regular boxing events. Even though I didn't have to disassemble the ring and reassemble it, I just wheel it out. But after everything was said, I would sit back and I think for the regular individual who comes in and looks at the arena, it doesn't look like there's much work to do. But there is a lot
of work
behind the scenes.
So you mentioned securing a facility. What about going past that, and securing our city reps, or securing our people with our deep pockets? I don't know.
Yeah, well, yes. Now, one of the things that happened when we had the city manager come in, when city council members went to the city manager, because now she made all the decisions, to appealing to her for a cut rate for the Golden Gloves and all that stuff. Because you know what? Even though it's a nonprofit organization, as long as you charge at the door, it becomes a for-profit
of course.
Event. So the rates go way high.
Yeah.
And what you would say is, hey, if we do it for you guys, we're going to have to do it for everybody else. And so there's so many teams out there that are asking the city for use of city facilities. But you know what are city facilities then for?
Well, the city, we own the city facilities,
Yeah.
and I don't know why they make it so impossible. And like I said before, Junior, look, man, we need to, just like the Hall of Fame, and I hope in the 80th Golden Glove tournament, we can recognize people that are still here with us, like you, right? Jorge Munoz, Bobby Joe Valdez, Rene Armijo, Jorge Tovar, Victor Aranda, and I mean, because look, man, these guys need recognition for everything that they've done, and their accomplishments. And you know what, you mentioned where is Golden Gloves right now, and where it needs to be. We're far from over, and we're far from getting there the way you used to have it. Yes, I understand that now it's kind of hard, even if we had everybody's backing, because kids don't want to box. Technology is taking over. They want to rather sit there and do. It's not the same no more.
No.
And back then it was the only thing to do. Now there's so many things to do.
Okay. Now the other issue is that, for example, here in El Paso, well, right now a lot of the young kids are getting a lot of exposure as far as experience. Fighting a lot and going out of town. But that's when parents can afford.
Yeah, well, it's in their own pockets. I mean, but it's tough.
Afford to travel. Now, like here in El Paso, anywhere just from east of the Twin Cities, Midland, Odessa, there's down south, East Texas and all that stuff. You got events every week. Every week you have events, and it's within driving distance.
Do you think maybe because it's the venues are affordable or attainable?
Well, the thing is that they're so saturated over there that they're close to each other. So you have an event where you may have, and I don't know what the cost of some of the venues they use, but I do know for a fact that, for example, the Parks and Recreation Department in San Antonio, provides a facility for or the venue for Golden Gloves.
But that's when the city backs them up, no?
Right. Like San Antonio, one of the they one of the most successful programs. They have a 5-day event. Now, of course, there's a lot of their LBC encompasses a lot of small cities.
Yeah,
so you get about 200 plus boxers registering for a tournament. And that translates to paying customers, paying audience.
I mean, that's another animal.
Yeah. And now here in El Paso, I was just mentioning earlier that Golden Gloves. We had 100, 150, 160 fighters registering for Golden Gloves. And that's back when there was hardly any gyms, And
now we have more gyms and less people.
Yeah, and less boxers.
That doesn't make sense.
But what's hurt us is that USA Boxing governs.
And they're
boxing.
And they're the only ones that govern.
Yeah, it used to be AAU, then they, USA Boxing. Apparently, it was an act of Congress that created.
That's a whole different.
Yeah, and it used to be USA ABF, USA Amateur Boxing Federation, and then it became USA Boxing. Now, what they done is that USA they govern boxing, so everybody has to go through them.
Everybody
have to pay all the kids, all the
fees,
all the registration, all that stuff, and I don't have a problem with that. But what's happened is that they have been bickering for years at the national level with Golden Gloves, and one of the things about one of the last issues they had is that they went. With the elite to remove the headgear. And Golden Gloves, for years and years, there was no headgears, during the time I fought, no headgears. And when headgears were optional, then they became mandatory back in the mid 80s. A lot of the old school people, including myself back then, and I wasn't that old back then, relatively young, but
young lad.
We kind of frown on the headgear because the knockout was one of the exciting things about boxing, and every event we had,
there was knockouts.
We had several knockouts, in the amateurs. Well, as time went by, after a few years with the headgears, I thought, what? When I became an administrator of boxing, I says, I like this. I like this because, first of all, it cuts down on paperwork. When somebody gets knocked out, you got to fill all kinds of reports. And it keeps the kids safe. Many a time a young boxer get knocked out, and that was the end of his career. They wouldn't come back to the gym. Some would,
some
but
wouldn't,
a lot of them
wouldn't.
wouldn't, So I later on says yes. I says I agree with the headgear. Well, a couple of years ago, because of the dwindling viewership with USA Boxing, the Olympics mainly, they said we're going to do away with the headgears because that way people can see and identify with the boxers. Like when De La Hoya was at the Olympics. Everybody
wanted to see them.
Fell in love with them.
Oh, the girls.
Anyway, so then Golden Gloves says no. I said we're not going to remove it. And for years, Golden Gloves was it was established, in Chicago by the Chicago Tribune.
Golden Gloves was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, and Golden Gloves was established as a stepping stone into the pros because there was a lot of injuries in the pros. A lot of, well, you see the old fighters, busted noses and cauliflower ears and scar tissue over their eyebrows and so. And they says, what we want to do is have Golden Gloves as a staging area, where they can learn their experience, then go on to the pros. Well, after a while, that wasn't the case anymore. The situation, the mission was to provide an activity, a safe activity for young fighters. So when they went into headgears, they said, no, we're going to keep the headgears. And then USA Boxing says, no. Okay, since you want to keep the headgears, then Golden Gloves will no longer be a qualifier for the Olympic trials. because you won national Golden Gloves.
And you will qualify.
And you
of
qualify
course.
for the Olympic trials. So, that became now another issue, and that's no big deal. But the issue is that now USA Boxing is scheduling a national tournament right around the time the Golden Gloves has their tournaments. Golden Gloves, since day one, has always set dates for the region, the state, and nationals. And those dates, you could,
of course,
you could schedule, years ahead of time. Well, USA Boxing, they started slipping in their national tournament right about the beginning of the year. And you didn't have to qualify to go to the nationals. If you had the money to travel and travel for meals and lodging and travel, well, you're welcome. We had a situation, for example, a couple of years ago. We had this young lady here that went to the qualifiers in Albuquerque, and they had to be there Sunday to be able to weigh in, register on Monday,
and probably fight on Thursday.
And she fought on Friday. It's a whole week.
And it happens, Junior.
Yeah,
it's happened to us too here.
And see, the situation is that the people bid, the cities bid for those tournaments.
Yeah.
And as people, USA Boxing say, okay, and where the cities make their money is, hotel, motel tax,
of course,
and motel revenue, and
of course,
and all that spur or stimulation to the local economy. So they're willing to shell out money. Say, okay, we'll give you whatever you're asking for.
Of course.
They all bid, and then you bring the tournament over here because they know you'll have a crowd. But what's happened now is that to a lot of this tournament, not every event do you have the elite, because a lot of them can afford it. And we discussed this down at the franchise holders meeting in Fort Worth, is that a lot of the kids that can't afford, that are good fighters, can't afford to travel and stay and then miss school. And they can't do it, so they don't go.
Yeah, a lot of these elite fighters are homeschooled.
Yeah, and which is, homeschooled's okay, but there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing like attending
I agree. Junior, so we obviously know, and I know we're pressed for time here, but we obviously know that, Golden Gloves, El Paso Golden Gloves is a struggling association. It's struggling right now. You mentioned the registered fighters. How is it looking for our Golden Gloves? Not to discourage nobody, because it's still, there's still time. We want to sell tickets. We want to give tickets. How's it doing so far as far as registration?
Yeah, well, registration,
it's a little bit slow.
And it's slow. We're struggling with participation, with registration, And
how can that be? We have more gyms in El Paso like never before.
Yeah, it's kind of, the thing is, even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you had Pavo Real bringing in, each recreation center would bring in, 20, 25 boxers, and we had the.
Let me ask you a question. How much were the fees back then?
Well, the fee was a lot less.
Of course.
For example, maybe 20 years ago, the fee was $7.
Yeah, now it's $72.
$72 for a boxer.
For a boxer.
And that has an effect. And there was a time that Jake Martinez was everything. He was the president of registration.
Junior, maybe. Do you think maybe that? Well, and again, this is at the higher ups, which is probably impossible. But maybe it should be every 2 years. Not every cycle year.
Yeah.
Fighters sometimes will register in mid year, and then already in 3 months it's expired.
Yeah, it's expired.
Maybe 2 years. I don't know at those levels. If we can even bring something up, like that.
Yeah,
maybe it'll attract more fighters.
Yeah, I'm sure it would. And the thing is, like, the late Jerry Wright would say that, these guys are gouging, the kids, and.
Well, just like our city. So what's the difference?
Just, the person over there, we got to pay all this outrageous salaries to to people that administer USA Boxing, it says the girl that answers the phone there makes $60,000 a year. But anyway,
we're paying her.
Yeah. Now I like to point out that Golden Gloves, nobody gets paid. Everybody's
volunteer basis. But you know what? We always, also as a gym owner, we need to also support the program.
Yes, certainly. And you need some income.
What do you think is the future of Golden Gloves, Junior?
Well,
what is the future? Let me ask you before that. Let me ask you. Are we going to see anything different this year in Golden Glove, or we're just trying to get fighters to get in there, right?
Yeah. Okay,
certainly. So what is the future of Golden Gloves?
But we're going to keep plugging away.
Good.
Now, one of the things that we're forever grateful to the El Paso Sports Commission for giving us a home.
For many years, but it's been a struggling relationship there sometimes, right? Because I know they've changed CEOs or they've changed staff as well, and I know that's also been talked about in past podcasts that it's been not so a good love affair there.
Yeah, but they're willing to work with us as opposed to the city of El Paso.
Of course.
Now,
so good for Brian Kennedy and Mr. Bobaggy, right?
Yes, and
they're the only ones that actually work with anybody.
Yes.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
You go to the Civic Center or whatever, or the Convention Center. You go to, they, like you say, they want to charge you outrageous fees, man.
Right. So the county is helping out.
And you know what? You see El Paso and Las Cruces. If we were to come together, we would be a force to be reckoned to actually bid for a national tournament here in El Paso and Las Cruces.
Well, Brian Kennedy and Mr. Adams were working to bring in the National Junior Olympic Tournament here. But, it just didn't materialize. Somebody outbid it, El Paso, and now it's going to be held, I forget where.
Alpine?
No. Alpine. We're going to have the regional, the state junior Olympic, and that'll be very interesting. Frank Guerrero has done an excellent job over there.
Good job.
He's since day one. He started working with kids and became has produced some good boxers, and he travels all over the place.
So, like we said, hopefully people will get out to the Golden Gloves. Tickets are only $10. If you're a military or a senior citizen and
student,
kids,
$5.
Kids under
8?
8?
Yes.
And kids under 8 is free.
Yes,
free. But guys, support the Golden Gloves. The money stays here with us. It's only $10 to go watch boxing. It's going to be a 3-day event, March 6th, 7th, and 8th at the El Paso County Coliseum, and then also the first official weigh-in will be this Saturday at the El Paso County Coliseum, from 8 a.m. to noon.
Yes.
So it's going to be a 2 hours, just a weigh-in. Now let me ask you a question: do fighters leave their books off there?
Yes.
The fighters will leave their books off, and then they'll get pre-matched. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll be this Saturday.
If they're not matched, then we return their books. Also, we're going to have an official certification clinic.
Official certification clinic on Saturday. And I will post that on the Boxing Reporter at 10 o'clock at the Coliseum.
Yes.
What's the fee? Give me some more information.
There's no fee. All you have to do is be registered with USA Boxing, currently registered, and just bring your passbook. And Andres Lamasangiano, who's done an excellent job as the chief official, will be conducting the clinic.
Good. Yeah, he remains our chief of officials, which does a good job.
Yeah, he does a good job. He had some health issues, but didn't stop him.
He looks healthy. I just saw him.
You would never.
So folks, El Paso Golden Gloves since 1942. I like to put them on. The tradition continues. Will be March 6th, 7th, and 8th at the El Paso County Coliseum. For more information, you can contact Mr. Junior Vicencio, 915-203-0493, inviting all fighters, all gyms, participate. Let's make it an outing that week and support Golden Gloves. and bring it back where it needs to bring back.
Yes,
so
certainly.
Junior is at the helm, and thank you, Junior, for continuing to lead Golden Gloves. Again, anything you need. Hopefully, the future of Golden Gloves will land here.
Yes.
I mean, I've kind of shown interest as well to run the program.
Right.
Pass the torch. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll do a great job like you or have the experience
no.
you do. But I mean, I think you've done a phenomenal job, Junior.
Yeah.
So
Well,
continue
thanks.
success, man.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for all the help. And
You got it, man. So I'm going to show you some pictures on our YouTube screen, and real quick, tell us what the picture is and all that. The first one here will be this one right here, and this is going to be at the mural at the corner of where?
Yeah, that she was it? Is it Kansas or no? Or
Oregon.
Oregon, yeah.
And this is the mural that is still up in
Yeah.
El Paso.
In El Paso, yeah.
And I went to the Alan Jackson concert on Friday.
Yes.
And funny that Alan Jackson does a video where I come from. I think that's the song. And he actually did a video of El Paso,
Yes.
and he showed this mural.
Oh, nice.
It was pretty awesome,
Yeah.
and not just it was not just like a blink of an eye. They actually videoed some of this wall. Tell me the likes of who's on this wall. Just give me a few names real
Okay,
quick.
well, that's myself there, and
Right in the middle, right?
yeah, an action picture. That's Fernie Morales.
Fernie
to the
Morales.
right. Yeah, in my opinion, one of the best fighters to come out of El Paso.
Fernie Morales, right?
And not only was he a great fighter, he was the first fighter from El Paso to make the Olympic trials. And after he finished his career, he did fight for the world title.
Yeah.
And after he finished his boxing career, he continued working with kids,
Good.
at-risk kids.
And here's the next one that I'm going to show you. You probably haven't seen this one in a while. It says that it was Jake Martinez, coach of the El Paso Golden Gloves, huddles with lightweight Chito Barragan and featherweight Ladio Vicencio.
Yeah, that photo was taken in Fort Worth, at the hotel when we had arrived. And I thank Jake Martinez. We became the best of friends, and to the bitter end, we were friends. And I thank Jake for providing the opportunity for me to, after I stopped boxing, to take over the program.
Good.
And continue working with the program, and it's been one
Pretty good, man.
wonderful
man,
experience.
You were a good-looking guy, Junior.
Oh, was I tell you, like Jerry Wright, he was a pillar here in the
All
boxing.
right. What about
community.
this picture?
Oh,
this is all Golden Gloves.
That's Tacho Mendoza with Reyes Mata.
The great Reyes Mata, right?
Yeah. Oh, Reyes Mata was one heck of a fighter. He and Tacho too. He was a state champion in 55, I believe.
55 state champion.
And he's still around. He goes
to every Golden Gloves.
every Golden Gloves, and that's the distinguished Jake Martinez.
The distinguished Jake Martinez, also father of
Susana Martinez.
Susana Martinez.
Yes, and Jake, he put so much time and effort and money into the program, and it's sad that most of the young kids now, they don't even know who he is.
Well, and you know why? We need to get back to Hall of Fame. We need to
Yeah.
give this back to people so they can
Right.
see. And you're right. What about this one, Junior?
Oh, that's Earl Large. Earl Large was from Clovis.
So before you keep going there, and I don't mean to tell you, but we just showed the picture of the great Jake Martinez, and somebody posted, which is going to be Jaime Palacios, said Jake was a great man.
Yes.
He was my dad's best friend. My dad is a local Hall of Famer as a judge, Art Servin.
Oh, yes, they were the best. They were friends since their childhood.
Yeah.
And Art Servin, we used to meet every Tuesday down in Marcobo at Jake's store.
We used to meet every Thursday.
And Art Servin, I to this day I think about him and brings a smile to.
Yeah.
He had a sense of humor.
He had a good sense of humor.
Amazing. He was the only one that could afford to rib or tease Jake.
Really?
Nobody else did.
Wow. Aldo Montes said Junior is the wealth of knowledge. His expertise is priceless. And that was Aldo Montes.
Yeah.
Which is going to be, he's going to be our ring announcer for
Oh.
Sunday's Golden Glove tournament.
Sundays,
So
yeah.
a shout out to Aldo
Yeah,
Montes.
we
He's an
appreciate
upcoming
that.
ring announcer.
Yeah.
He's pretty good too.
Yeah. Almost as good as you, huh?
Yeah, he's better than me.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, what about this one, Junior?
That's Earl Large. He was originally from Clovis, and Earl Large is Bobby Joe's Valdez father-in-law. Earl just passed away this past year.
Wow.
And Earl Large was several times national Golden Gloves and AAU champion. And he moved to El Paso and he made his pro career, launched his pro career out of here. And he beat some of the best fighters in Mexico. And he was beyond his, he was a little before his time. You know, he had that slick movement, like you may compare him to Sugar Ray Leonard.
Wow.
And he fought twice, Chucho Castillo, for the elimination fight to challenge Ruben Olivares for the bantamweight world champion, and they fought here in Juarez. You know, 2 fights that Earl clearly won.
Wow!
And the Mexican paper clearly says that it was a bad.
It was a bad decision, right?
But you couldn't. But Chucho Castillo was a great fighter, so he just. And then there's Pete Melendez, and Pete Melendez had a stellar boxing career, a good friend of Art Servine and Jake Martinez.
And going back to Art Servine, he said he was nonstop laughter with my dad.
Yeah.
Good shout out to Jaime Palacios. What's up, Palacios? Hope you're doing all right, buddy. Yeah. Thanks for always being on the podcast. He's a good fan of the podcast.
Good, yeah.
So Pete Melendez, what about this one? As we're moving right along for our pictures, this is folks the El Paso Golden Glove edition.
Okay. And I can't see very well.
It was Dolph Quijano, Santos, Mike, and Lewis.
Yes.
And this was the Quijano's family of fighting champions.
Yeah. And we still have a very distinguished attorney, Dolph Quijano, here in El Paso.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about this one, Junior?
That's wow. That's a photo beyond my days. Before
was that Ray?
Ray Terrazas.
Terrazas,
yes.
Ray Terrazas.
And I think Ray Terrazas is still with us, you know. And he was a Texas Gold Glove champion too, you know. All right, that's Vic Villarreal.
Says the caption says Tom McKay, president of the El Paso Boxing Hall of Fame, with him. Vice President Vic Villarreal, like you said, Treasurer Alex Guerrero, and Secretary Mike Andrade.
Yeah, all fighters. Yeah.
All fighters in El Paso, right?
Yes.
Folks, we are in, like I said before, our podcast edition of the El Paso Golden Gloves, 79th anniversary coming up Saturday, March 6th, 7th, and 8th at the El Paso County Coliseum. And with us today is our esteemed friend, professional colleague, mentor, Mr. Junior Vicencio, right?
Well,
3-time Texas State Golden Glove champion.
I appreciate those kind words.
All right, here's another picture for you. This is...
that's Tom McKay at his backyard gym.
And he always had that backyard gym, huh?
Yes.
And what about this one? Speaking of the lady fighters.
Oh, my goodness. La Chiquita, you know. She has a pretty interesting story.
What's the interesting story?
You know, her brother used to box there train there at Armijo, San Juan. And she'd come with her father, you know, and she'd sit there, you know, watching the training, you know, take place. That's and then she decided to take up boxing. And she won a world championship. Yeah. Chiquita Gonzalez.
And you know what? Been other ones in the past here as well, Junior. And if I missed some of them, I do apologize if I missed any other fighters. But we had, for example, inducted into the Hall of Fame Mike Andrade, Mauricio Chito Barragan,
yes,
Rocky Galarza,
yes,
Reyes Mata, Dwayne Reed.
Yes, he was a military kid.
Ishmael Robles.
Yes.
Randall Tex Cobb. Jose Garibay. And you know,
yes.
Jose Garibay contributes a lot to the Golden Gloves and to gyms.
Yeah.
He was the Twin City boxing champion and was called Manos como un martillo. In English, it's hands of a hammer.
Yeah.
He was the 1971 and 1972 Golden Glove bantamweight champion.
Yes.
Jose, sure enough, had a hammer of a hand. And you know what? Again, he does contribute a lot. So you know what, Junior? There's just a lot of people that contribute behind the scenes.
Yes.
To this boxing community.
And you know, Garibay, you know, we were boxing around, well, not around, during the same era, and he's always been very helpful. He's been a successful businessman. You know, he's has a construction company, and he contributes, you know, his to all programs.
And continuing just the list, and it goes on. And folks, if I miss any names, I'm sorry, but time is pressed here. But Sergio Vela was one of them. Ricky Leon.
Oh yes.
And people that have contributed to boxing here in El Paso are like people like Mr. Matt Aguilar. He's the El Paso Times publisher and has a column for boxing, and you see him every other. You'll probably see a column on him coming up here for this fight coming up tomorrow. Also, great sports writers for the El Paso Herald Post is Ray Sanchez. And then also Bill Knight.
Bill Knight.
And he retired recently.
Yeah, God, we miss him.
So, you know what? And we're back at the helm as well for other sports writers or even photographers like Herman Delgado. He's done some stuff for boxing as well. Joseph Sullivan. Just a lot of people, a lot of guys that I probably missed that have been in sport in one way or the other. But we just need to bring back boxing back where it's at. And folks, we have Junior Vicencio with us. Junior, thank you for taking the time and talking a little bit of Golden Gloves with us. We have a segment called Rapid Fire.
Yes.
You mentioned we mentioned the rapid fire, so we got some questions for you right now. So are you ready, man?
For
rapid fire. Rapid fire. Pro fighter that really embraced El Paso, Junior. Pro fighter.
Fernie Morales.
Why Fernie Morales?
Well, Fernie Morales came from the amateur ranks, and he was a local fighter that made his mark. You know, not only the amateurs and the pros. And he was a good ambassador to El Paso.
Wow.
You know, I got to travel with Fernie as an amateur fighter. We got to travel, you know, with him and his late father and Frank Morales and Frank Jr. And it was always a very pleasurable. Everywhere he went, people just embraced him. He was just a very likable, or is
he is a likable guy, right?
Individual, yes.
Best El Paso fighter of all time.
Well, again, I like to say Fernie
Morales.
He had a style, a classic style.
Classic style?
Yes.
That you probably don't see as much? Or?
No, you don't see that as much. Well, you do see it in the lower weights, but yeah, he was...
How about best year for Golden Gloves that you can remember? So you've been running Golden Gloves how many years now?
Well, I start... my last year that I fought in Golden Gloves was 76, and 77 I started to help Jake with the program, and then eventually he turned it over because he had just started business. But back in the 90s, you know, early 90s, you know, we were a force to be reckoned with. State Gold Glove champions, you know, we'd get 2-3 champions that, you know.
And you mentioned early 90s, we had like the likes of Mike Uceta, Juan Lascano, Jerome Ponder, Javier Muniz, Chris Ortiz, Alex Becerra, and Bobby Joe Valdez, in the 90s.
Oh, yes.
They were heavy hitters, huh?
Oh, yeah, all of them. Great fighters.
Wow.
Great fighters.
If you can change one thing about the Golden Gloves program, what would it be?
I think the program itself is doing fine. You know, rules and regulations and the people running it. You know, what I'd like to change is the USA Boxing. That they may eventually be able to work in conjunction and coordinate things with Golden Gloves.
Wow, better. Huh?
Yeah, so they don't interfere with each other.
And Junior, we also we didn't mention this, but Junior also works pro fights as a
timekeeper.
Timekeeper.
Yeah.
So tell us most memorable fight event you've been part of.
I mean, it
doesn't have to be pro, but
it's pro fights. One of them was when down at the Don Haskins, when Vargas fought, you know, El Feroz, and God, I forget who he fought. That's how memorable.
Memorable.
It was, but you know, the whole card in itself
Was good.
It was great, and
Wow.
I remember we're sitting there. I was sitting there talking to Lester Bedford, the site coordinator, and he says, "If we were baseball, this would be major baseball."
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah. It's,
So Junior, you fought. So what was your best skill in the ring? What was your best skill?
the classical Mexican hook to the liver.
And that was yours. That was your signature
Yeah,
punch.
yeah. And I learned that by watching television.
But back then there was no YouTube, huh?
No.
There was no YouTube coaching.
Watching the Friday night boxing from Mexico.
Wow,
Or Saturday night. Saturday. Yeah, Friday night was Gillette, you know.
Okay. Well, what was instant replay review in boxing? Yes or no? You know, other sports have them. Baseball, basketball. It kind of slows down the game.
Yeah,
but
it slows
would
down but it'd be a little difficult to have it in boxing because things happen so fast. And now we've had we had an occasion down when we had the state junior Olympic tournament at Carolina some years back, where somebody wrote a protest or submitted a protest for some fight, and it was reviewed. It was reviewed, and this was back in the mid '90s, and it was reviewed, and the decision was overturned.
Wow.
But I think it'd be difficult for that instant replay.
Right.
Yeah, it would slow things down. Yeah, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
and
it
then
slows
boxing,
things down.
And in boxing, you can't do that.
You can't be.
You can't stop the action, and
I agree with
then
you.
we'll wait around.
Best amateur coach in El Paso that you worked with?
Jake Martinez.
Jake Martinez.
Yeah.
Best Mexican restaurant in El Paso?
Oh man, Doña Lupe's.
Doña Lupe's. Where's that at, Junior?
Yeah, that was in the 5 Points area. It's still there, but it's no longer owned by Doña Lupe. Doña Lupe was my mother-in-law.
Wow.
And then my son Paul eventually took over it. I think all the members of the family eventually worked there. But
Wow.
yeah, it was excellent.
I'm gonna read to you a story and tell you what you think about that. That has been 10 questions with Junior Vicencio. Good
Yeah,
job, Junior.
thank
You
you.
did a phenomenal job on that. But I'm gonna go ahead and read something I got from an article in closing tonight's show with you. It's called "A Story About Cowards, Heroes, Boxing, and Heart." You ready?
Okay.
Coach Bill Parcells is well known for having taken struggling organizations, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, he builds them into successful teams,
Yes.
right? He was without a question a solid strategist person, but what set him apart was his focus on the individual character and, in parentheses, heart that championship teams required. One of the personal binders that Parcells kept in his desk as a coach of the Dallas Cowboys had in the back the written story of a match between two boxers that Parcells often brought up in conversation during his speeches with the football teams. Who would have thought he was a big boxing
Yeah.
fan, right? The boxing contest that he referred to took place in 1977. That was way past 35 years ago. Between middleweight fighters Vito Antufermo and Cyclone Hart.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you pronounce it?
No, I said he was from Middle-
Antufermo and Cyclone Hart. Parcells apparently loved to talk about boxing.
Yeah.
And in news articles would explain that a perfect off-season day is to find himself inside of a boxing gym somewhere in New Jersey in his boyhood home, right? It's a laboratory, he says. You get a real feel for human behavior under the strong duress, under the threat of physical harm. Boxing for Bill Parcells is where you can find examples of men whose lack of heart shows up in the ring behavior. Quitters, he says, act like they are fighting hard and are trying to win, but have really given up internally. Interesting. Parcells says that they've just chosen a way out that's not apparent to the naked eye. They are more concerned with public opinion than the end result. Parcells was not there to see the fight between these two, but has become a favorite anecdote of his since he heard about it. So this is out of the New York Times article that's told the story about the bout. Hart was a well-known big puncher, heavily favored against the unknown Vito Antuofermo. How Hart knocked out Antuofermo all over the ring. How Antuofermo had no apparent physical gifts except he bled well. But Parcells reads he had other attributes you couldn't see, like he said, to the naked eye, right? Antuofermo absorbed the punishment dealt out by his natural superior, and he did it so well that Hart became discouraged.
Yeah.
In the 5th round, Hart became to tire, not physically but mentally. Seizing on the moment, Antuofermo attacked and delivered a series of quick blows that knocked Hart down, ending the fight. Parcells calls the next part of the story very interesting. He said when the fighters went back to their makeshift locker rooms, there only a thin curtain was between them so they can hear each other. Hart's room was quiet, but on the other side, he could hear Antuofermo's corner, the corner people talking about who would take the fighter to the hospital, right? Who's going to take him to the hospital, right? Finally, he heard Antuofermo say, every time he hit me with the left hook to the body, I was sure I was going to quit. After the 2nd round, I thought if he hit me there again, I'd quit. I thought the same thing after the 4th round. Then he didn't hit me no more. At that moment, Hart began to weep. It was really soft at first, then harder. He was crying because for the first time he understood that Antuofermo had felt the same way he had and worse. The only thing that separated the guy talking from the guy crying was that they had done. The coward and the hero feel the same emotions. They're both human. This story Parcells shares is one that can be seen on fields and courts and even office buildings throughout the country. Winners in life don't suffer less or hurt less than others. They just decided to keep fighting and don't give in to excuses of their feelings. They answer the bell. Winners simply have a different response to their circumstances. Cowards and heroes experience many of the same things, but their experiences or hurts or challenges do not define them. What determines the outcome of our lives and your season is the response we choose. What do you think of that, Junior?
Great, and worked well written, well said, and you know what? That's I was asked by Matt Aguilar some years back, what's the best piece of arsenal that a fighter has? And I was quickly answering, heart.
The heart, right?
The heart, yeah.
And he also talked about that I got that, you know what, it's don't let your emotions play divided on you up in that ring, right?
Yeah, and that's what it is, and that's what boxing teaches, you know. And it just boxing teaches to develop your heart, you know, not to quit. Of course, it's hard, you know, not at times not to do it, but hey, and it carries on to after your boxing days are over. It carries over to your everyday life. You know? Everyday life.
Yes. You know what? We were pressed for time. I did mention that we were going to go ahead and I talked about the top 10. But in closing with that thing that I say, Bill Parcells, he said, "Will you allow your feelings to be the excuse that keeps you from finishing your fight?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said at the end. And with that, folks, I've kind of rounded up the ESPN pound-for-pound kings that we have right now. Number 1, Vasily Lomachenko is at number 1. Terrence Crawford, number 2. Canelo Alvarez, number 3. Nayo Inu, number 4. Errol Spence at 5. Alexander Usyk at 6. Tyson Fury made the list at 7.
Yeah.
I wish he would have been a little bit higher. Number 8 was Juan Francisco Estrada. 9, Gennady Golovkin. And number 10, Manny Pacquiao. Folks, big applause for Mr. Junior Vicencio for being on the show. Junior, thank you so much. We will see you at the Golden Gloves. And folks, the Golden Gloves will be March 6th, 7th, and 8th at the El Paso County Coliseums. Tickets are only $10. Go out and support these kids,
yes,
adults, young men, young women that are going to be out there fighting for the Golden Gloves in El Paso. Let the tradition continue.
Yes.
And it's going to be at a pretty good venue. Where else but the Coliseum, where we just had Jennifer Hahn win at the legendary, historic El Paso County Coliseum. Junior, it's been a pleasure.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
Thank you for being on the show with us. Once again, we thank you, and we will see you next week in 2 weeks at the Golden Gloves.
Thank you very much.
Folks, thank you so much. This has been the podcast for you. This has been Trevino LT, also known as Tree, here from the installation of Warriors Edge Boxing. Hello to all my viewers, and have yourselves a good weekend. Enjoy.
Five, four, three,